All right, everybody, we are still deep in our pop era here on the podcast. We have another drink for you. Is this a pop? Does this count as a pop?
I think so. They're trying to make it like a pop-like thing. I feel like it's more of territory into like sparkling water. But I think these are supposed to be kind of substitutes to pop, but trying to make pop healthy by putting things like prebiotics, which we had to look up what prebiotics
It's just
were.
fiber. I don't know why they have to use a fancy word. It's just fiber. All right, what we got?
Well, we are trying the Poppy Cherry Limeade today. It has 5 grams of sugar, no fake stuff, and it's got BS with a X out of it. Prebiotics for your gut, and this particular drink is infused with apple cider vinegar. It has 25 calories per serving, and it says, soda's back, sweet, but with an edge. Are we describing you or the soda in your hand? Oh, gosh. That's one secret we'll never tell. XOXO. Gossip Girl.
It doesn't say Gossip Girl, right?
It says that's the secret
It
we'll
says-
never tell. XOXO.
Okay.
Okay, ready? Cheers.
Yeah, no trademark infringements here.
Ooh, I like this. I think this, in my opinion, is better than the other ones we tried.
We tried some of the Ollipops
Yes.
earlier this weekend.
And it also has the prebiotics thing, kind of the same concept. We tried the cola-flavored Olipop, did not like that one. Lemon lime Olipop. We had ourselves a time at Target, y'all. And we do this because we were, converting to a beverage podcast, I guess. And we liked the grape Olipop best.
Yes.
We have not tried the ginger ale version. But I actually think the Poppy Cherry Limeade is my favorite of them. So I'm going to have a couple more sips, and then you can join in.
Okay. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to We Watch TV. It's the podcast about the TV that we watch. I am Daniel. She is Hope. This is episode 84, if you can believe it. And, okay, I'm going to give this cherry limeade Poppy. Olipop. See, okay, this is Poppy brand.
Yes.
The other one's called Olipop.
Yes.
I can't keep them straight in my mind. So, I should never be in charge of purchasing these.
I feel like more people post about Olipop.
Oh, that's better. That's like way better than the other ones.
Yeah, it's good. Which makes me wonder, is
It's
it
probably not as
healthy?
good. Yeah, it's probably not as healthy because that's way better than the
Could it be the flavoring?
Olipop.
I really like
Maybe.
the cherry limeade.
I like the
flavor.
cherry limeade. There's a bit of an aftertaste now, but the first punch of taste is good. Is like that's cherry limeade. That's exactly
I
the
hope we're
flavor I'm
saying
thinking of.
Olipop right, by the way.
Who cares?
I think the grape Olipop I really liked of those, but that's my favorite
Hey,
so far.
brands out there, do you want us to pronounce your name right?
Send
us free
stuff.
crap. Otherwise, it's whatever I want to say. It's my podcast.
And while we are transitioning to a beverage podcast review, just kidding, no we aren't. I did receive from one of our longtime listeners, one of my friends from Warren, Michigan, who suggested that we do a kind of a dirty soda, but with a protein shake mixed in. This is what a lot of people are doing, and a lot of people on TikTok say it's really good.
You told me about this. You showed me this. Warren, Michigan, our dear friend, our dear listener. This sounds disgusting. You're wrong.
But you thought regular dirty soda would be disgusting, and it wasn't.
Okay, yeah, but I've had protein drinks.
They've come a long way. So we are going to try that. We just have to get the actual protein drink that they used in the video. So maybe that'll be coming your way next week.
Every time you bring this topic up to me and I look up what we're supposed to buy, all I think of is muscle milk from...
You mean gut milk?
Gut milk.
Muscle milk is a real thing.
Gut milk from Only Murders in the Building.
Agreed.
Oh, well, you know what I could go for dinner tonight?
What?
A nice Panera Bread sandwich.
Yep. Okay.
It would be so delicious. I've been obsessed with it lately. Everybody who's listening, I'm new to Panera Bread. I was introduced to it.
You shouldn't be new to it.
I was introduced to it last month for the first time.
No, you weren't!
And it's very good if you haven't tried it.
Okay. So the real story is, I'm going to walk you all the way back to when we were in college. The Panera Bread that I like to go to with one of my roommates. I took Daniel there a couple times. He always acted like I was dragging him to, the gates of Mordor, like just absolute hell. Like, why would he ever want to eat at Panera Bread? Like, what is there to eat there? And he would always act weird about it. So I would suggest it occasionally in adulthood, and I would just get absolutely shunned. So color me shocked when he's at a work conference and he's like, oh, I just had Panera Bread. It is so good. We have to go there more often. Oh my gosh, when I kid you not, my head must have spun around 50 times in rage. It reminded me of that episode of Modern Family with Claire and Phil, and they had the argument over the wedge salad. Because Phil finally ate a wedge salad after, and he was trying to figure out all the things he had done to make Claire mad because he had been just doing stupid crap, but it was the wedge salad. She had told him, you need to try this wedge salad for months, and he just wouldn't listen. And then finally somebody else said it, and he tried it. That episode makes me feel seen anyway because you've done that to me before. But wow. But you know what? I'm just gonna call it as the late in life win, because now that you're finally on board with Panera, I can welcome Panera Bread happily back into my life.
I didn't know they had nice deli sandwiches.
You've seen me order one. Just because I customized it, which you can do at Panera Bread, doesn't mean anything.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Had I ever been with you at a Panera Bread when you ordered something straight off the menu?
Do I ever order anything straight off the menu?
Because back then, it wasn't the days when I could just pull the menu up on my phone and look at it myself. You got to walk in there, and it's I can't read menus off signage. It's a whole...
If I'm not doing chicken tendies and fries, do I ever order directly off the menu? I always at least customize one thing. And I don't think that makes me difficult. I think that makes me knowing what I want. I do not like tomatoes. They make the bread soggy. Anybody that's ever told you in your life, oh, just pick it off on a tomato, do you not realize that the whole bread is compromised by the soaking? And you agree with me. You agreed with me on that on Saturday, when you can't simply pick off a tomato if you don't like it. It makes the whole bread soggy.
Yeah, I mean, specifically in the scenario that we did where we bought the sandwiches and didn't eat them for 5 or 6 hours.
But even in the sandwich immediately, it's still gross.
I like
Says
tomato
the man
I like fresh
who freaks
tomato on a
out
sandwich.
if they put cheese on his burger.
Listen, Wendy's has a cheeseburger, and Wendy's has a regular hamburger that does not come with cheese. And when I order a regular hamburger, I should not have to say no cheese. I should not have to see no cheese. They have a cheeseburger and they have a hamburger. When I say I'd like a hamburger, I shouldn't get something with cheese on it.
You sound so much like your dad. Next thing you know, you're going to be sending me an email out of the blue about how they put cheese on your burger. True story. Actually happened. Do you remember that email that we received?
Unfortunately, I do, yes.
That was fun. I so much like the cheese that I like to take, the paper that they put the burger in. I like to lick the cheese off of it.
The cheese paper?
The cheese paper.
Yeah. I'm fine with cheese in other ways, but for some reason on a hot hamburger, I'm just not there for it.
But anyway, welcome back in my life, Panera Bread. It only took, 18 years at this point, practically, because it was the college era where I gave up trying to get you to go to Panera Bread.
Can we talk about the surprise that you didn't see coming?
I guess so.
The baguette?
Yes.
So the meal we got was 4 sandwiches. We got a meal that's supposed to feed 4 to 6 people.
We
and we
ate it
ourselves.
in 2.5 days.
True. But it came with when the menu advertised it came with a baguette, and I think both of us were not quite prepared for what they were going to hand us because we got a 3-foot long baguette.
I thought we thought it was just going to be packaged differently, and they just literally was oh, here's the bag, and they're oh, wait. And then they hand us this child. I had to cradle it in my arms.
We have a great picture. We'll put it on the Instagram.
Oh, you shared it on your personal.
Yeah, it was just my personal stuff. So I don't let you weirdos into my personal stuff.
Anyway, should we talk about some shows?
Yeah. Before we get started, just want to remind everybody it is a spoiler podcast. So from this point on, we will be talking about lots of shows, and we will be talking about the spoilers of those shows, which spoilers contained inside of those shows. We have chapter markers in the description if you just scroll down and take a look at them. So if there's a show specifically you don't want to be spoiled out, just skip past that one. And also just want to remind everybody that we are on Instagram and at We Watch TV Podcast. And if you have been listening for a long time and you really like what we're doing, maybe think about sharing one of those posts when we put them up on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, whatever days we post them, to let everybody else in your friend group know that you love our podcast.
Or just send us suggestions for more beverages we can try. This has been the best beverage.
This has been the best beverage.
Well, that's the best since Dirty Soda was good. Dirty soda was good.
I'd rather have this than a dirty soda.
True. Okay, let's get into some shows now because I can't. I'm just chomping at the bit here. Agatha All Along, once again.
Episode 4 of the season.
Episode 4. Thank you. My show notes are very good today.
They are. They're very descriptive.
They're very descriptive. Knocked it out of the park. I didn't think that I would continue singing Down the Witch's Road, and then they hit me with a Fleetwood Mac 70s style type cover. I'm just like, that is cinema. The costumes, the fire coming up behind them, the lyrics. If I can't reach you, let my song teach you. Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road.
This is my life for the past, week now, has just been this.
Well, I kind of let up singing it.
Yes.
And then they brought it back into our lives. What did you say?
What?
What?
I said thankfully.
I think there's spells in the songs. Like, it's just like an earworm. You know that you're singing it in your head. You're just not singing it out loud.
I've been singing old Tom Bombadil all week.
We'll get to that later. And you actually had me humming that in the shower the other day. But then thankfully Agatha rushed back in. So Agatha, just perfection. I think I'm going to call it right now. I loved WandaVision. I love Loki. This is definitely in my 3, maybe even 2 slot. That's how much I like Agatha. I don't know if you like it as much, but what do you think?
I still have Loki number 1 right now. Of course, we have to see how this goes, but I think that this is definitely getting up there with WandaVision for me. I think I'm very interested in Aubrey Plaza's character, not just for the reasons that you all think. Rio, because, of course, I'm not going to say the spoilers we know from things that haven't happened yet on the show, because I don't think that's fair.
We said it last week.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, never mind then.
We said, cover your ears. Okay, we won't say it this week. Go last week.
Right, but so even if we didn't know those spoilers by this episode, we know something's up.
Funko Pop, if you guys are interested, go look up the Funko Pop Agatha toys. I did not look it up. It just came up on TikTok because my TikTok is almost all Agatha right now. And they kind of gave away who her character is, which we did We did a cover your ears. Here's another spoiler thing last week, but we'll go ahead and not say it this week. We'll just make things complicated.
So who her character really is.
I think I would have figured it out by now.
I think, So they gave us 2 things. They gave us a lot more insight into the relationship that her and Catherine Hahn's character, Agatha, were in. But they also gave us insight into who this teen is, and specifically, it is not Catherine. It is not Agatha. I want to keep calling her Catherine Hahn instead of Agatha, and I don't understand that. But it's not Agatha's. It is not Agatha's son, and Rio tells her that, and we believe her.
Yes, and we also, again, last week we did say we said cover your ears. We totally talked about the Funko spoilers.
Well, we're not going to spoil it this week because if we're anything, we're consistently inconsistent.
We have concepts of a plan.
So what do you think of all this? This was a big episode, I thought.
Like I said, I just loved it. I got another cover that I've been playing literally on a loop, on repeat.
Beyond the earworm music.
I think it's great. Like, I think if I hadn't seen the Funko spoilers, knowing just from the conversation surrounding the season, I would have pretty much figured out. I think they really heavily indicated the clue with Rio. And then, like you said, we got more insight into their relationship. She said, I have a scar. I'm your scar. Yeah. So we definitely I think the theory goes that it has something to do with Agatha's son, the sacrifice she made with her son, Nicholas Scratch. And there is a connection with that relationship. And then Agatha I think Agatha did think briefly that teen was Nicholas Scratch, and Rio kind of confirms, like, hey, that's not your son. Yeah. So they really, I think we're leaning to make people think that, but I think I would be honestly stunned if he is not Billy Maximus at the end. Like, if they did something different, I would be shocked.
Do you think she thought he was her son or wished?
Could be both.
Yeah.
Could be both. I think she felt a connection to him, but I mean, that connection might be there for other reasons if it is Billy. Now, those Funko spoilers don't come right out and say Billy Maximus.
No, they don't. They use.
I will say that.
Yeah, they use a comic book name. So if you're not familiar with all that stuff, that's probably not that big of a spoiler. I think we
knew that there were supposed to be some of the other witches aren't going to make it down the road. We've already lost R.I.P. Mrs. Hart. That's what she says again. Agatha is so unserious at times, and then other times she is. I think Alice is not going to be making it out, but we found out that Alice, did have the generational curse, and we found out that Lorna's version of Witch's Road was actually done and sung all around the world because she made it into a protection spell. So I'll see you at the end. I think that Alice will not make it, but I do believe that they will reunite. We will get to see her reunited with her mother at the end of the Witch's Road.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what that's got to be what that is for. Hopefully she gets her chance to, go out in a blaze, so to speak.
Patty LuPone, once again, her character just knocked out. Oh, great, there's fire now. That scene. Just knocking out of the park. I know she has a big episode coming up just from based on pictures and screen grabs that I've seen. I really noticed some details, and then it took, my nephew actually sent me some TikToks on this. There was kind of a broken record, and that was for their next test where they, performed the banger Fleetwood Mac style song. Very much gave Stevie Nicks vibes, but it said something like redheaded woman or some reference that we know has got to be towards Wanda. Do you think we are seeing Wanda? Do you think we will see? I guess my question is, I think we're going to see Wanda regardless, but do you think Elizabeth Olsen specifically filmed new scenes, or do you think we're just going to see flashback clips of Wanda that we've already had?
I do not think she filmed new scenes for this show.
I'm going to agree with
But
you.
I do think that the Scarlet Witch, played by Elizabeth Olsen, will show up in this show at the end to show that she is not dead.
Yes.
But I don't think it will be anything new. I think that probably they've got enough footage from enough different places that they'll be able to pull something together as a quick little 5-second teaser at the end.
Well, with all, this isn't the first time, by the way, that toys have spoiled stuff like the Funkos.
Mm-mm.
But there have been other leaks that I have seen, and I feel like if she totally actually came on set and filmed new stuff, I feel like we might have known that, but I don't know.
I think so.
I did hear that episode 5, which is the episode coming up tomorrow night, that is the one that is just bananas. I hear that's the one that's crazy. And I'm like, and they're like, if you're not into the show, you're going to be into it by episode 5. And I'm like, I'm already way deep into the show. I'm ready for more covers of the songs. I'm ready for more music.
You think we'll get another cover?
Sign me up.
I feel like you don't bring Patty LuPone in to do backup, which is what she's been in the 2 songs they've done so far. I feel like you got to get her own song at some point, so I wonder if she gets a version.
What's the next test going to be in the next costuming? I'm excited.
Oh, I don't know. It depends on who it is. Hey, before we go to the next show, we were talking about how things get spoiled by toys and other manners. Yeah. Did you ever hear the episode 1 spoiler that happened?
For Star Wars?
For Star Wars Episode 1?
Yes. One of my old coworkers told me all about that. That's what I was actually referencing when I said that toys.
Oh, the soundtrack came out and said what happened?
I think there was other stuff. I don't remember specifically, but
that is
one of the things that people point out.
They released the Episode 1 soundtrack a week before the movie came out, and one of the title tracks was Qui-Gon's death.
Oh, well, that's fine. I mean, I would have probably surmised that as a fan based on lore. That why didn't I ever see Qui-Gon?
Right, he's got to go at some point, yeah.
But then again, I'm also the type that I can sit here and watch Revenge of the Sith, and I'll be like, maybe Anakin won't go bad because I love Anakin so much.
Every time she does it, she sits down to watch that movie, and every time she's like, well, maybe this time it'll be different.
Circling back to Agatha real quick, we didn't mention that Rio conveniently showed up when Mrs. Hart Sharon passed away, and she's a green witch, and they did a spell, and that's how enter Aubrey Plaza back on the scene. Now, some other news for Agatha: we had said the last episode will debut or drop on October 30th. It's actually we're getting episode 8 and 9 on October 30th, so that'll be a 2-night night before Halloween,
ending us on an odd number of episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it would be 4 more episodes, but man, at this point with the vibe of the show, they should have went to 13, right?
I need an auto-tune to auto-tune me when I bust out these lyrics for our listeners.
I could probably figure that out. Not tonight, though. All right. We also watched Only Murders in the Building, episode 6 of season 4.
Yes.
I thought this was an excellent episode, and I know there's probably going to be some people out there that eye roll at me for it. I thought they committed to the bit, and it was great.
It was my favorite episode of the season.
And I loved it.
Best episode of the season. Basically, we find out that the brothers, sisters, whatever. I think they are I really do think they're trying to play off the Duffer Brothers. And it's almost like the movie within the movie. We find out that they've put hidden cameras, Like they had one in Oliver's freezer. We got a reference to Oliver's dips.
Yeah, finally.
I know, finally.
The dips are back.
But even the shaky cam, Daniel like pauses the show. He's like, now. He's like, when it's committing to the bit, I don't mind shaky cam. I wasn't even going to call you out on that, but you were clearly, your defenses were ready.
Well, because you know how often I criticize shaky cam in movies,
Yes.
but in this episode of the show specifically, it was warranted because all the cameras were handheld unless it was one of the spy cams.
Well, we know who Dudenoff is. That was the professor that the girls had, and apparently Eye Patch, Pink Eye Man, had also been in that class with them. But Dudenoff, we find out he is dead, correct? Mm-hmm. And he also has replacement parts like Saz had. Do we think Saz is really, really dead, or do you think she might be faking a death?
I think she's really dead. I think we've got two people now, and we got to figure out why both. What's the connection is what we're looking for.
But were
between
they still
her and
after
Saz.
Charles? And was it really Saz? Who
I
was
don't
it? Did
know.
they know Saz
Who
was
knows?
there?
Scott
Bakula.
What does Scott Bakula want? What does he want?
He's suspect one. Well, then we have Oliver, because Zach Galifianakis, who's playing Oliver, gets shot on the photo shoot. Somebody shot at him. So Oliver's like near-death experience. So he calls up Meryl's character to basically propose. And she's like, But it turns out that was a whole misdirect because she's on like Grey's Anatomy, like burn unit or something. I don't know. I could see that show existing in real life.
I'm sure it
and
does.
she's like all bandaged up. So we assume she heard it. She couldn't talk. I'm like, why is her phone on set? I'm just, I'm not going to ask too many questions.
It's
Best episode though. I love when a show commits to the bit like that.
Yeah, it was excellent. I enjoyed, like, at first I wasn't sure because I wasn't sure if they were going to do it for like 5 minutes and then go back to the normal stuff. But when they just did the entire episode from different, so like the brother sisters had like their old Super 8 film camera that they were showing, and then they had the spy cams, and then had
the
regular
cat guy.
Yeah, he had like just a regular 4K camera that was walking around.
That was the job that they had
so
given
that looked
him,
fine. But it was still, handheld, and so the whole time they were just cutting between these different shots, and they had a couple of security cameras as well. I just thought they did a really good job of committing to it, and it was really good.
It was just a fun episode, and episode 7 drops tonight. And just a reminder, there are 10 episodes, and that finale will air October 29th. I'm not ready for it to end, but at least we know we're getting another season after this.
Yes. That's very nice to know. And again, I have to be grateful for a 10 episode.
I know,
it's
these
crazy.
days, that's great.
It's crazy, but you've got to be grateful for 10 episodes these days. So,
speaking of 10 episodes, our Frasier reboot season 2 is set to have 10 episodes.
Which is not enough.
Yeah, for a comedy you need more, and I understand Only Murders is a comedy, but it's different. Frasier's like your typical sitcom. Ha ha.
It is a sitcom.
Yes, I know. I was referencing the bit that we did last year on the podcast that you've probably forgotten about.
Yeah, I did.
Anyway, we just finished episode 4, where we find out that Freddie has been seeing a therapist. I found Frasier's reaction in character, but yet also weird, because as a therapist himself, Frasier knows that it would be inappropriate for him to see his son as a patient. But at the same time, with how narcissistic Frasier can be, it did fit the character that Frasier would be like, well, why can't Freddie talk to me? Why does he always act like he's fine? But then him stealing the file from the therapist thing, like,
that was a bit much.
We had a whole episode, which I guess you could say that Niles was always the more serious therapist of the two. He didn't have the fast food advice on the radio show. But there was a whole episode in the original series where Daphne took a file from Niles' desk, and Niles like freaked out about it and was like, you could cost me my license.
I feel like they could have very easily made this episode where Frasier finds all this information out and then talks to Alan about it, and Alan goes and takes the file, and then you could have still had the same shenanigans at the end trying to return the file.
Frasier freaking out, being like, you should have done that.
Because I feel like Alan's the kind of character you could more easily see doing that, and that would have made it a little bit more believable.
The physical comedy was funny.
Yeah, it was.
And I don't know the actress's name, but she's like literally in everything. She shows up in The Mandalorian. She's in Elf. Yeah. She's like, I've never declawed kittens
Freddy's
before.
Therapist.
I don't know why I remember her from Elf specifically for like 2 off lines. But like that's always what I remember her. So I feel like she's like the funny version of the woman that showed up on Lucifer and Suits.
Oh,
Sheila
yeah.
Saz.
Yeah.
Like, she always shows up. She always looks the same to me. But I thought she it was almost like the more realistic version of the therapist you see, because she totally made a joke about intake forms, and I had just complained about having to fill out another intake form for therapy, and I'm like, well, that sits a little on the nose. She's like, well, we're buried in intake forms. I feel like for our therapists, like, they make us fill them out now, like, not an intake, but like she called them what they are. I don't remember what the technical term is.
It's a form you have to fill out so that the insurance company thinks you're crazy enough to need the therapy, because otherwise they won't pay for it. If they think you're mentally well enough, they won't let you pay for it.
Anything else that you want to say about the episode?
I think I've revealed enough.
All right. Well, on this week's episode of Frasier, we have another old cast member coming back that didn't show up in season 1, and that is Frasier's agent, BB.
I could have done without this cameo.
She's I can take her or leave her type. I think in a small dose she'll be funny, but I would almost rather, hot take, see Daphne's mom show up than of the two, or Daphne's brother, the Winnebago.
Oh, like, Daphne's brother for sure. Like, he could drop into one episode and be great. I don't know about
so
Daphne's mother.
He could hang out with David, like, right? What do you think they're doing with David? I feel like they are changing David from. They don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing with David.
They're giving him some more Daphne-ness, though, a little sprinkled in, like early because early Daphne was weird. People forget about that because they kind of made her character a little bit more normal, I think, to pair her with Niles when they finally got together. Yeah. But I think that David is less annoying than he was in season 1, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, you know what the biggest problem with David's character is right now is that we haven't seen him interact with his parents. I think if he could, no, not even from a nostalgia or cameo standpoint. I feel like if we saw him interact with his parents, they could then justify how he's acting as in every other way as a character. I
mean, we got close with a Secret Admirer, and it's like, that's Daphne.
Yeah, yes.
That was, exactly. I feel like, our first like Daphne reference. But we said 10 episodes of Frasier, and we had talked about this. Apparently, we will be getting another Christmas episode that's going to close out the season. A Christmas episode closed out the season last year, and that is titled Father Christmas. And they're actually going to go back to that plot that we learned about Alan being estranged from his grandchild. The IMDb, unless it's wrong, Internet Movie Database synopsis says that Frasier is going to help Alan reunite with his estranged grandchild. I'm excited for a Christmas episode.
When are you not?
I even will take the crazy Christmas episode with a fork throwing from the bear.
The bear.
I don't know if I put that in my rewatch queue, though.
That's a bit intense for that, I think.
Well, speaking of not too intense, we did start a new show. I feel like the show is just millennial women coded. It is Nobody Wants This on Netflix, starring Mr. Seth Cohen himself, Adam Brody, and Kristen Bell, who is the XOXO Gossip Girl voice, but a lot of people know her from shows like Veronica Mars. She's been in several movies, and she is the voice of Anna from Frozen. There's your little trivia.
I'm so educated now. This show's fine.
Yeah, I agree. It's fine. I think it's one of those shows that I enjoy it while I watch it. I like the episode length.
Yeah, the length is good.
The length is good. It's definitely, I feel so rewarded as somebody who has held a torch for Seth Cohen since 2003 that Adam Brody still looks great. I feel like he's almost playing a mix of Seth Cohen and Dave Rogowski from Gilmore Girls.
He's not playing that different of a character from what we've seen him in the past.
Yes, and he is a rabbi in this particular show. Will we get Chrismukkah?
No.
I think we should. Missed opportunity.
I don't think we're going to get Chrismukkah in this show.
I just have to say, I haven't watched the show, and I intend to, ladies, that has Joshua Jackson in it, a.k.a. Charlie from the Mighty Ducks.
Is that the one where he's a doctor on the boat?
Yes.
That looks dumb.
But it's got Joshua Jackson in it.
Stupid.
He's been with me through all phases of my life. I always liked Charlie from the Mighty Ducks, even though I did like Adam Banks too. And then Luis Mendoza in the second one. He was really cute. Luis Mendoza's also in The Sandlot. Benny the Jet Rodriguez. Just had to throw that out there. My hopes, loves of when she was a kid. But then I loved Joshua Jackson as Pacey. So it's like the reemergence of Joshua Jackson and like Seth Cohen. This is for like the young Xers, like elder millennials, middle-aged millennials, I guess, middle-tier millennials, if you will. And yeah, I like it. I think I looked at you when we were talking about Nobody Wants This, and I'm like, I'm not super excited to watch the next episode. I'm not like, I don't think it's like groundbreaking, but I like it enough.
Yeah,
And
that's
check
a
the
perfect
boxes.
example of it. It's like I'm entertained while the show is on. I'm not thinking about it afterwards.
I did like how she was trying to stalk his ex-girlfriend on Instagram. I'm like, we've all done that. We've all done
Yes.
that.
I do like his brother. I think his brother's funny.
Sasha, his brother's really funny.
I think.
Then her sister is Connor's.
Oh yeah.
Whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
From
she's funny too. In
Yeah.
fact, they are probably. You remarked since
Succession. I was like, why am I forgetting like my favorite show's name?
Since his brother Sasha is married in the show, that's like a missed opportunity because they actually have really good, funny chemistry together when they're on the screen.
Maybe
at the same
makes
time.
more sense that they wouldn't end up with two brothers.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, now that you say that you're correct.
Because it would be kind of like, like so predictable. But I like it. There's 10 episodes of that. We have watched the first 5. So it's just something easy. I think it's easy viewing. I think what did I say? I was like, oh, the lead character, Kristen Bell's character, Joanne. I was like, she's kind of getting my nerves. And then she does something like exactly something I would do. And I'm like, oh, man. And you're like, you always get annoyed by the characters, like you say to me, that are like me.
You get annoyed on like characters on TV that are like you.
Well, we can't all be so awesome, I guess.
Well, speaking of things that are not easy viewing, I was all set. So I'm still behind on season 2 of Rings of Power, and the premiere happened this past weekend. This past week, the finale. I'm sorry, the finale happened this past week, and I was getting set to watch a couple episodes, get to it, and then I'm spoiled about the ending of the season.
On your own accord, you didn't have to come watch.
By the most unlikely of people, my wife. She sits down and she's like, "Come watch. What is this?" And she just puts the ending of the Rings of Power season 2 in my face on TikTok, right there.
Okay, he master of deception right here. That's not how it went down. I've been getting like filled with edits for Sauron and Galadriel. That's the way he says her name. And I'm like,
I want to make it very clear. So hold on for a second. I want to make it very clear. She has watched exactly 0.0 seconds of this show.
But I think I'm up to speed on what's going on. Anyway, so I'm watching the TikToks and I was like, oh, I think I just saw like the finale. And you're like, oh, I haven't seen that yet. And I'm like, okay. I said, well, I'm going to watch the final scene. That's with the two of them. And then Daniel over here, who's on the other side of spoilers, as you say, just decides to come over and watch it with me. And then I'm like, and he's like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, well, so-and-so dies. And he's like, what? Because that other guy that I thought was kind of cute, the daddy of the orcs.
Yeah, Adar. Yeah.
Adar. He kind of has like a way to him in the TikToks I've seen. But anyway, I like Sauron and Halbrand. Am I saying his name right?
Halbrand, yes.
And apparently he like transforms to that again when he and Galadriel are fighting. And I would have folded like a tissue. I'd have been like, all right, let's do it. Let's come on. I will be your queen at your side. I think just from the edits I've seen, having not watched the show at all, while he is the ultimate master of deception and we know he's going to be evil, I do think that he could still be evil, but I think he might have started off trying to use her, but I do think he cared for her. And when she just like gets out of there and leans backwards with that ring, I don't think he was just focused on the ring falling. I think he did have somewhat of a torch for her. And it'll be interesting to see how season 3 goes.
So all of that said, I'm pausing my watching of season 2 because Hope has committed now to watching season 1 and season 2 with me.
Are you going to issue your apology to me? Because I would just like to remind you guys, I was always going to watch season 1 with him. And he was like, don't waste your time on it. It's going to be stupid. You're not going to like it. Like, Daniel literally told me not to watch the first season. So I'm ready for my apology now because I would have watched that with you.
Gentlemen listening, just let you know.
And ladies.
As Larry David once put it, there's nobody that's better at apologizing than I am. I do it so often. I'm a pro. I'm sorry that I neglected Panera Bread for so long. And I am also sorry that I told you correctly that Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power was boring and you shouldn't watch it. Because you should have watched it. What I did not know that I now know was that the one thing that would have gotten you into the show was something I never saw coming because nobody saw that coming.
One ship to doom them all.
So I am sorry. And now we can sit down and watch season 1 and season 2, and then you'll be right there with us for season 3.
Do you think when he looks at her and he has such beautiful eyes and he's gazing at her so softly that we zoom in on the eyes because like
la 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 president business? That's what you're doing over here right now. Like you're just ignoring all of the...
The way he says her name and he's like Gladriel. I'm like, ooh. Why does he have to be like Sauron? Well, I just like to say, what is his name? Elrond? What is his name?
Elrond, yes.
I thought he was annoying in Lord of the Rings, and I bet he's going to annoy me until his life starts to fall apart, because those last couple edits where he's all sad and his hair's in his face and he's dirty, I'm like, okay, this elf is starting to be a little cute to me too. You're coming home with me. So yeah, we'll watch that at some point, even though I have everything completely spoiled for me.
Well, you don't, but that's the funny thing. You don't, because like there are like 5 other storylines going on in that show that you have not been spoiled about at all. Because they are not related to...
There are so many people that have not watched Rings of Power that were like, oh, I should watch this show. So if Amazon's smart, they'll lean into that a little bit.
If they're smart, they'll
lean
into
3.
it. Yep.
That being said, I don't like the comparison saying he's like, because Anakin was good. Okay, so he killed a couple kids. He was manipulated to do that. But like as a whole, Anakin's core is good, whereas I think Sauron is ultimately evil.
You know, you don't have to... You do not have to...
and I'll
defend the mass murderer Darth Vader every single time it comes up. You don't have to do that.
Anakin, there's good in him. Anakin is good. He was manipulated into all those things. And from what I read when I did a deep dive, it looks like Sauron was a little manipulated as well.
So all of this to say, she did something else.
What?
At some point, you told me this. I'm not speaking out of turn. You told me at some point during all of your TikTok watchings of these edits, you decided, you know what I've got to do? I'm going to go watch the prologue of The Fellowship of the Ring, which is like 8 minutes long, to refresh yourself on that part. Because essentially...
how the rings were made and all that stuff.
Because essentially that prologue is what we're seeing spelled out in longer terms here.
It's being narrated by Gladriel.
Yes.
It kind of made me sad and bummed me out. But then all the comments were like, imagine 8 minutes of this show or this... prologue being so much better than 2 seasons of a show. Because I don't think... Is there any fans that like the show at all? Everyone's like,
you know what? You don't hear very much of it.
Everyone says that Sauron actor's good.
But then we're all sitting here watching it and discussing it and making TikToks about it. So I haven't made any TikToks about it.
Give me a good enemies to lovers any day of the week, and I'm down.
This is about the most unexpected one I could have thought of.
All right. Well, in other news, Dancing with the Stars, at the time you are listening to this podcast, will have dropped the Monday night episode. They filmed that episode the Tuesday of the vice presidential debate that took our Dancing with the Stars away from us. And then tonight's episode will be live. It will be a double elimination. I think we gave our prediction, who we thought would go last week, but I don't remember what I predicted. So I'm going to go ahead and start it off. I think Eric Roberts is out. And then I think that people are just getting really into the showmance of it. So I think Brooks is safe. I'm going to go with Eric Roberts and Phaedra, the housewife or whatever from Traitors, Phaedra and Val.
I think it's gonna be Phaedra and Brooks.
You think, but you haven't seen the same.
Eric Roberts has like something, and I don't know what it is. I don't know where these voters are coming from.
A lot of women really like Gleb and like the showmance. And Brooks isn't a terrible dancer.
Okay. Well, I said what I said.
Who do you think? I mean, I did see some spoilers for dance scores, but that's been debunked, so I have no idea.
I haven't seen any scores. I've seen nothing.
If you had to predict right now who's going to win the show.
Oh, Chandler.
I'm going with Chandler because I don't know how the Yun vote is, but apparently the show's like getting like popular vibes again. Like the youths are getting into it.
I do think Reginald VelJohnson is going to overreach. And he's eventually going to kick out somebody that we're really not happy about.
I hope he doesn't kick out Alona or Steven.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Dwight even.
So, we don't normally talk about... I want to say we don't normally talk politics on this show. And we're not going to talk politics on this show. But I do have to note that during the vice presidential debate at the end, one of the candidates did apologize to everybody for taking up the time slot that Dancing with the Stars would have normally been in.
I
thought that was really funny.
Because I complained like all week. I was like, I can't believe we're not getting an episode of Dancing with the Stars because of this stupid debate. I just want to watch I want to disassociate and watch these celebrities do these dances with flashy costumes, with Carrie Ann being annoying, Derek actually giving good advice, and Bruno being crazy? Is it too much to ask?
Yeah, I just want to see Bruno take his shirt off. That's it. That's it. That's all I'm here for. So, I don't know.
Anyway, we do have some shows coming out this week. I'm getting the first half of the Outer Banks season 4 because Netflix just loves to only give us half of the season.
Bring it home, zombie!
I am getting 5 episodes on Thursday. Should I really pay attention to the recap since
you better.
I had the vid the last time the season was out. Like, I'm talking like the day I tested positive for that.
Yeah.
And I barely remember what happened.
We're basically comatose on the couch with your eyes open watching this
I know
season.
that JJ and Key finally got together, and I know the gang, like, there was a time jump, and they got proposed to go find, like, Blackbeard's treasure or something. I'm not really sure. I don't know. So I'm going to have that skip recap. Not going to be able to do that. Are you going to actually watch it with me, or are you just going to randomly listen into episodes and shout stuff? There's one run that we do, you guys. I don't know why it's this particular run. Maybe it's like a hill run where every time we have about, 150 meters left. And Daniel just goes to me. He'll go, bring it home. I'm so excited. I touched the mic. Daniel goes, bring it home, John B.
It's because we got to cross the road and there's might be traffic coming and then we're kind of going up a hill. And it's just, I feel like I got to give you some motivation. And that's just what comes to me. It's inspiring to have your dad ringing a bell at the top of a tower and yelling your name, even though it's unclear to me if he even knows you're there. That was the 5 minutes of season 3 I watched.
On that note, I think I'm out.
All right. Peace.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at The Real Hobo Dan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.